What's up, guys? It is Wednesday, so it is time for our children's story. Glad you're here today. I got another one for you. As always, we're reading out of the Spark Story Bible, so if you want to follow along, you got it. We'll be on page 392. This story is called Doubting Thomas. We're in this season after Easter. We've celebrated the resurrection of Jesus, and now we're looking at those stories that kind of happen before he officially goes up to heaven to stay. So let's keep reading together. Doubting Thomas. The disciples were hiding in a house the night Jesus rose from the dead. They were afraid. Bam! They locked all the doors. Jesus came and stood by them. "Peace be with you," he said. The disciples looked up in surprise. Jesus showed them his hands and his side so that they would know it was him. The disciples were very happy. Again, Jesus said to them, "Peace be with you. God has sent me to you. Now it's your turn to go tell the rest of the world about me." Jesus breathed on them in a very special way, and he said, "With this breath I will always be in your hearts, even when I am in heaven. You now have the power to do the things I've asked you to do." Thomas was the only disciple not there that night. When he got back, the others excitedly told him about Jesus' visit. All right, let me show you guys the pictures. See the disciples? And they're telling Thomas, right, about what happened. Thomas wasn't there. He doesn't believe them. "I don't believe you," Thomas said. "I'll believe it when I can touch Jesus' wounds." A week later, Thomas and the other disciples were in the same house. Jesus came again and stood with them. "Peace be with you," he said to them. "Thomas," Jesus commanded, "come here. Give me your hands. Put your finger in the wounds in my hand. Put your hand by the wound in my side. Do not doubt anymore. It's time for you to believe." Thomas's eyes popped. "My Lord and my God," he exclaimed. Jesus answered him, "You believe because I am here with you, and you've seen me. Think of those who have not seen me, but believe in me anyway. You should believe even when you cannot see it for yourself." I'll show you guys these pictures. See, there's Jesus. He's holding out his hand. And there's Thomas, right? Look at his face. Look how surprised he is. I mean, if you were Thomas, right, and you showed back up with all the other disciples and they were like, "Hey, guess what? Jesus was here. You missed it. You didn't get to see the wounds in his hands and the wound in his side." You probably would have a hard time believing that too, right? I mean, that's unbelievable. Jesus who Thomas had seen put on a cross and put into a grave. He'd heard the news that Jesus was resurrected because it happened that morning, and the women had went back and told everybody. Thomas probably had heard that, but sometimes when we hear something, it's hard for us to believe unless we see it, right? And that's what Thomas says. He's like, I can't believe this, guys. I cannot believe this until I actually get to touch Jesus' wounds and his hands and his side and actually get to see him, right? Thomas just wanted the same experience that all the others there got to have. And Jesus shows up and gives it to him. That's the really cool part, right? Jesus shows up and he's like, "Hey, Thomas, you needed to see? Here you go. You need to touch? Go ahead." But Thomas doesn't have to after he has that moment with Jesus, right? It's a really cool story. And it kind of reminds us that sometimes we may have a hard time believing things that we don't actually get to see. But that's where faith comes in, right? Faith is this idea that we believe even if we don't have all the proof we need, right? So that's what having faith is about. Like, we haven't got to see Jesus. Jesus hasn't like come to my house and knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I'm Jesus. Here I am." But I can believe in the stories of Jesus, and I can believe who Jesus is because of the stories I've read, because of the stories other people have told me, and because of the times I've got to like encounter something really special from God, right? That helps me know that Jesus is real and I can have faith in him. So this story is all about seeing, right? At the end, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who believe, but they don't see." And Thomas had to see it to believe it. So guess what? Today's game has something to do with seeing with our eyes. You've probably played it before. Have you ever played the game I Spy? It's pretty cool, right? Like you say something like, well, let's just play it, okay? I'll say something. And something on my screen, okay? I spy something green. And then you kind of guess, right? What do you think I see that's green? Maybe you need another clue. I spy something that's a weird shape. Like it's not a circle, it's not a square, it's not a triangle. It's a weird shape that we don't have a name for. Okay, so it's green and it's a weird shape. You need one more clue? I'll give you one more clue. I spy something that's in a pear. Okay, right? A pear is two things. So I spy something green that's a weird shape that there's at least two of. You know what it is? Did you guess it? You probably have, right? There's only so many green things on my screen right now. It's those right there. It's those. Oh, I gotta go the other way. It's the boots in that picture, right? The rain boots. They're green. They're weird shape. There's two of them. So that's how you play I Spy, right? Now that I've shown you how to play, now that we've had a quick little game of it, you've heard our story about doubting Thomas, right? And how Thomas had to see it to believe it. Here's the fun game I want you to play with your family and friends, right? How about you play I Spy with them? You could take turns, right? You could see something and they could guess, and whoever guesses it right, then maybe they get to go next and see how many you can get right in a row as a family. That'd be kind of cool, right? So I'm glad that I got to have this time with you. I hope you have fun playing our game. I hope you remember that I love you. I'm here for you. I'm praying for you. And I will see you next Wednesday. Bye, guys.